Hey friends, in today's video I'm talking about the meta in Destiny 2, the most effective tactic available in PvP, what players do to win at the highest levels, the highest skill levels. Let's say there's thousands of dollars on the line, or at most, 45 minutes of a trials card on the line, and you have to win the next match. What are you going to do? What are your teammates going to do? How are you going to build it? What weapons do you use? This is the meta overview at a glance. I'm going to jump into it right now, starting with Hunter. If you're a returning player, even a veteran player, a low skill PvP player, a high skill PvP player, you should find something useful in this video. I'm going to talk about the most used build right now, which is the Omni Oculus Hunter, because this makes you invisible. If you make your teammates invisible, you get smoke energy back. You do this through the Trapper's Ambush aspect. You can either quick fall to get invis. You do not leave a radar ping on the ground. Or you throw your smoke at the ground, it makes everybody invisible around it, and it leaves a radar ping. What Omni Oculus does is it refunds that smoke energy for either quick falling or throwing the smoke down, and it adds damage resistance. So what this means is that you can tank a headshot of Chaperone, Precision Slugshotty, if you are at 9 resilience. So what these teams do is their whole strategy revolves around sitting invis off of the radar and waiting for an opportunity to present itself so they could fly forward and joust with special weapons. The reason most players gravitate to Lord of Wolves is because this is a burst fire shotgun. So even if you are the first to shoot, which means you lose your invisibility damage resistance, you can still get the kill if you aim well. There is some finesse to it when two teams are doing this, where you don't necessarily want to be the first to shoot if you expect them to return fire. If they're not looking at you, obviously just break your invis and fire. But there's some finesse in timing it so that you get the kill and they do not. A lot of high level Destiny 2 is putting in chip damage with your hand cannon, closing areas off with your area grenade, waiting on your super to charge if both of those fail, and once you have chip damage in, once you're zoned, fly in with the shotgun and make sure you trade out. That's high level Destiny 2 right now. It's not glorious, but it does get results. When you start playing very, very good primary teams, they have a respect for each other where they know everyone's going to hit their shots in the lobby, so they don't look for stray challenges because that's kind of silly. They wait on their super, they wait on their grenade, they wait on their invis resist because playing the primary is too risky. So as a result, most players backpedal, and they end up using 120 RPMs instead of 140 RPMs. I think this is a wonderful crafted Austringer, and it could be even better with Enhanced Snapshot here. I went for stability so that I could get the most unflinching possible while still having an unflinching on the chest piece, since Lord of Wolves is my primary killing method. I know it's a special weapon, but when you use Omni Oculus, it is literally your primary. So, speaking of primary, since I know I'm going to be playing a lot more reserved, not taking duels, always team fighting, always leading with abilities, I want a 120 because they have more range. With Quick Draw Snapshot, I get completely overrided the handling stat. I don't have to worry about that. And 80 damage is better than 70 damage. So in a team fight scenario, or if they have resist on, and you pop somebody even in the body versus a 140, your Lord of Wolves teammate might win without trading, and that's huge. That's why these show up. If you don't have a steady hand, you can go farm a Loud Lullaby on the moon. I think you have to do the moon quest to unlock it, and if you wait for the Lost Sector rotation, I'm going to show you what that looks like, to be on the moon. I think it is on the moon today. Yes, I think it's chest piece, right? It's K1 crew quarters. So it's this one right here. This is the Lost Sector of the day. If you succeed on this on the Legend difficulty, I think it's a 20% chance, so maybe 5 of them. You're going to get unlucky, right? You're going to go through a stretch of 30 in a row without getting something. It happens. Just keep going. I recommend exiting to menu and going back. Maybe it's a superstitious thing, but it does work for me to break those dry streaks. And then sometimes you have good streaks where you get 2 or 3 in a row. The idea is you're going for exotic chest piece today, aka if you're playing Hunter, you are trying to get Omni Oculus. And at the same time, if you talk to Eris Morn, the moon vendor, right here, go to this Lectern of Enchantment, you can trade some materials, these phantasmal cores. You get them through killing enemies on the moon to get Phantasmal Fragment, turn 20 of these into 1 core, trade 1 core for a bounty, and then follow the steps to get the hand cannon. And the steps can be completed in the Lost Sector. So you're doing 2 things at once. You're getting the best in slot chest piece, and you're getting the best in slot cannon. This is what I think you should be shooting for. Since you're using Omnioculus anyway, Surplus is very easy to upkeep, since if you make your teammates invisible, it refreshes your smoke grenade. So then you combine that with the explosive payload so that the explosive portion of the bullet always retains damage across the map, so your team shots hit that much harder, and it also flinches the hell out of their screen. If you're a really high skill heads up player, go for kill clip here. You will be able to make it work against the best teams in the world. They won't be expecting to get 2-tapped, especially with overshields and resist and whatnot. The other hand cannon dimension is the True Prophecy. I just pick perks that look good. Pretty much anything you get in the magazine column doesn't matter as long as you get explosive payload or elemental capacitor at the end right here, because if you're playing Void, it's a free 20 stability, right? Then on this left-hand column, rangefinder, opening shot, or overflow. I think that's the move for sure. I think fast draw is the best sight, but just be happy you have any good 120 hand cannon to begin with, and don't farm this too hard. I think Loud Lullaby is going to be better long term. You can obtain True Prophecy through the Dares of Eternity. I think we are on the week 1 cycle, the rotation 1 cycle, where we can get True Prophecy. And then I think the other weapon worth mentioning here is the Escape Velocity Submachine Gun. In rotation 2, look out for Main Ingredient, and also First In, Last Out Slugshotty. In rotation 3, I think Truth Teller is the move. That's a grenade launcher, but keep in mind you can get an equivalent grenade launcher from just playing strikes and leveling up Zavala's reputation. If you saw any other weapon there of note, just there it is. You can pause the video, return to it. If you don't have a 120 hand cannon, I think you're better off with a high impact pulse like Messenger. This is not obtainable anymore, but you might have an old one in your vault if you're a returning player. What are your alternatives then? Well, you could go the exotic route, which is using no time to explain, and I have time to explain this one, by landing precision shots. Once you get to 10 precision shots, not burst shots, that's 3 bursts and then a single shot, you get a buddy that floats above your shoulder, and it's a turret. It just shoots at people. You get the catalyst, and your turret shoots more frequently. And so by combining the turret with this already great archetype of a weapon, you can consistently 2-burst your opponents in, I believe, 0.67 TTK, something like that, which is blazing fast considering your hand cannon's going to be like 0.87. So 0.67, 0.87, like, you see the difference here. You're already playing at a range anyway with your 120s. Messenger might come up. And you might even want to run it with Celerity if you have the old version like me. Desperado did get nerfed, but it's still very good. I think Kill Clip is the move here, though. In the energy slot, there is the Stars and Shadow. I'll show you that later once I hop to my Titan. So yeah, that's your combo with Lord of Wolves. The other Hunter alternative is to play Solar with Wormhusk Crown. And while I think this is still a really good loadout, especially for 6s, when you're going to have a golden gun to wipe a team, in 3s, the gameplay is way more passive than you expect, and healing's great if you're getting in primary duels, but if your opponent's only goal is to fly at you with invis and resist and a special weapon, healing doesn't really do much for you. Healing's super annoying for a primary-centric player, but again, I'm talking about the meta today. The meta doesn't care about primaries, baby. It's all about flying in with the special weapon when the opportunity presents itself. And while Wormhusk is very, very good, I would still consider it S tier. I think the winning playstyle is Omnioculus special weapon jousting. So I have some other weapons in my inventory here. Trials isn't always a close quarters map. Sometimes it's a really far map. So you might actually want to ditch the Lord of Wolves and go for something else. You don't have to go for a regular shoddy. I choose a 1-2 punch shoddy just to deal with bubbles, but of course you can build it for range and consistency. If you're going for the absolute best of the best hand cannon, or sorry, shotgun, this is the one right here. Surplus, opening shot. Full choke is good, but I think you might as well just go rifled or a small bore or a corkscrew, something like that. Just boost the range up as much as it can go. Surplus makes up for handling. If you're an Ophidian aspect Warlock, definitely just go for max range. It's going to feel so much more consistent. You could even go for slide shot here to help with consistency even more. So you put on a shoddy or you put on a fusion rifle. You could use Cartesian coordinate, main ingredient, which does come from those Dares of Eternity that I showed you. If you need to find that on the director, it's right here. Grenade launcher, also very good. And you would use No Time to Explain or Dead Man's Tale or Messenger. And a lane. You want to be pinching simultaneous angles with your team. If you're a hand cannon player, I recommend Hawkmoon because it has a win condition. By landing headshots and getting to the bottom of the magazine, the final round does a lot of extra damage to be able to one-shot your opponent. So even if your opponent is using like Wormhusk Healing or Lorelei Splendor Helmet on the Titan, for those who don't know, if you take damage or throw a barricade, it drops a sunspot and you heal if you're standing in that sunspot. And yes, it can out DPS a 140 RPM hand cannon. So if they're out DPSing your Hawkmoon and they get away, or outliving your Hawkmoon, you're eventually going to stack up a one-shot kill and you're not going to care about Lorelei Splendor anymore. As for sniper recommendations, the beloved sniper rifle, which comes from the Crown of Sorrow right here at the helm, you follow a quest line. Sure, y'all know this by now because this is the point of the season. Go to the Castellum, farm tier 3s because tier 3s work towards a lot of different things at once. Once you have a lot of bound presence, go do your Sever activity, and you can work towards your Haunted Shotgun at the same time. This being the Haunted Shotgun. If you just play Crucible, Frozen Orbit might drop and you might get a good roll. This is an incredible pick for a sniper. If you use it with the Last Word hand cannon, expect to be able to clean up 7 resilience and below. So body shot him with the snipe, switch to Last Word, 7 resilience and below, it will kill. So that's why I like Frozen Orbit, because it's not that I can't aim for the head, it's that the opportunity presents itself for the body all the time. Like sometimes there's a slanted piece of cover or only their foot showing, and if I can just take the shot, I'm taking the shot. I don't care about percentages. The only percentage that matters is the win percentage. We're talking about the meta here, baby. Drang is another good sniper pairing to replace the Last Word hand cannon. This is the weapon that I have the most kills with in the entire game. This one right here. It is so effective. And I'm a mouse and keyboard player, and I'm telling you it's effective. If you plug in a controller, expect other people to notice and also rage switch to the Last Word. It is that powerful. Drang, it's nipping on its heels. It's pretty close. I found this to be the most consistent roll, but again, I play mouse and keyboard. Sidearms aren't very consistent on mouse and keyboard compared to controller. Not a mouse and keyboard weapon. But what is this under your skin bow. This absolutely will hit on mouse and keyboard. You do not have to plug in controller for it to get better results. You might be saying, oh, why a bow? You're not going to use this in isolation. Oh yeah. Let's say you're in trials and you run out of ammunition on your Lord of Wolves or on your sniper rifle. Well, you're going to do the meta decision and switch to a bow because it's a primary weapon and has infinite ammo. Yes, it's scummy, it's very annoying to play against, but again, we don't care about that here, we care about win percentages. Primary option in the... I'm kind of just bouncing all over the place here, it's a live commentary. Igneous Hammer, not obtainable, but the bottom dollar hand cannon is through Gambit. I don't think the bottom dollar hand cannon can really hold a candle to Igneous Hammer, especially when you consider the aerial effectiveness stat. But it can get some rolls that are pretty good, like Surplus and Explosive Payload or Quick Draw Explosive Payload, to make up for the poor stat package. Again, you're playing Omnioculus. It's going to be very easy to upkeep the Surplus perk. Another analog pulse rifle, if you can't get a messenger, it's not the same, but the BXR Battler is so consistently versatile. I have snapshot on it so I can choose to aim down sights or to hip fire because it is a special type of weapon. I hate saying special here. It's a unique weapon that has accurate hip fire, dramatically accurate hip fire. And I do recommend the hip fire grip on it, not the Icarus grip. Always hip fire in the air if you use this thing. This is a tournament style role that has Eye of the Storm, no killing perk. If you're choosing to use this with Omnioculus and maybe like Bastion or Chaperone as your kinetic pairing, then go for the BXR perk. Let me look that up on D2 Gunsmith here because I want you to read it exactly as it's described. Blunt execution rounds. Must deal melee damage while an enemy is within 15 meters, grants 100 handling, and 100% PvP damage for 10 seconds or until firing. So I think you do 150 damage per burst once that perk is activated. And the big takeaway here is you have 10 seconds to take advantage of it. So just because you're using Omnioculus doesn't mean that you're going to go invisible. You can still use it as a regular smoke grenade. You just throw it at your opponent, activate your BXR perk, and you have 10 seconds to go snipe somebody with a 2-burst. It's a very, like I said, consistently versatile weapon, and even though in a raw 1v1 it's not going to be great for dueling, in a team environment, I think it belongs in the S tier because you can make that versatility work a lot harder than a messenger. A messenger has good hip fire, it doesn't have perfect hip fire. Big difference. I think that covers most of these options. I put an SMG here again. Maybe use Lemon Arc and switch to this to clean up. Maybe you're using a special weapon and run out of ammo. Switch to Escape Velocity. You can get this from Dares of Eternity this week. I think it is the second best SMG behind Submission. However, let me show you Submission here. I need to go to Weapons. However, Submission might be harder to get since you have to do the raid to obtain it. Doesn't have to be an adept role. You can craft this from the normal raid. It is 15 zoom, but it has higher base stats compared to Escape Velocity. However, this does have hip fire grip, which the other one doesn't, and it also has surrounded, which the other one doesn't. So I think this is a unique role, which does come up in trials where you melt somebody for 26 damage a headshot. It's kind of like Terrible. They won't even realize that they get melted. Some maps are going to call for Forerunner over a snipe just because of ammo economy. 2 sniper bullets is great, but depending on the game mode, just landing 70 damage across the map leads to better team fights, which leads to more wins. So maybe consider Forerunner. I'm on the cusp of putting in an S tier, but I think it's A tier just because instant kill is usually the play at the highest of highest skill level, but just don't discount this. The high damage is still very good. And I think that's all of them. So to recap here, Omnioculus, special weapon jousting, 9 or 10 resilience to tank chaperone shots and make your survivability to close the gap better. You're sitting on a super for most of the game, so you're going to be running the faster super anyway. This is a terrible super, but if you have it first in the match, it can be good if used together with your team. Make your team invis, loop it. Don't forget to use your smokes as an offensive option if it comes up or just to trick the radar. Secondary hunter meta is Wormhusk Crown on Gunslinger. I personally use Gemini Jester at the highest level. I just can't flat recommend it over Omnioculus because Omnioculus is good without a team. It's great with a team, and it's fantastic if you radar manip. I can't say the same for Gemini Jester. It's good by yourself. It's great with the team. And the amount of coordination it takes to be extremely effective against the best teams in the world is maybe too much to ask when I can get lucky with special weapon jousting and beat them anyway. Not saying Gemini's bad. I'm saying Omnioculus is really good when trying to play a similar playstyle. But what Gemini Jester unlocks for me is being able to play Revenant. And so now that I'm talking about the whole kit, here's where I think it can hang. The Dustfield Grenade is crazy good. I use it with the Witherhoard Grenade Launcher because this slows them in place so they can't like jump out of the way, and Witherhoard puts a pool of AoE damage on the floor and stops them. Dustfield can also prevent hunters from closing the gap easily. So you kind of have this counter meta to Omnioculus. Still think Omnioculus is ultimately better, but you're going to match a lot of players who have never played against a competent Revenant Gemini player, and you're going to take some W's just off of a weird matchup. So consider that for the future for sure. Let's hop over to Titan now. Oh my god, my voice is dying here. Sip of coffee. And now we're back to it. Titan. Peacekeepers is the move. Teraba is the move. Thank you for coming to the TED Talk. But if I was to get more specific here, I have builds with Antaeus Ward that have very similar stat splits here. Same fragment combo. You want the Overshield Barricade because it makes your Omnioculus teammate's job a lot safer. You have a win condition of throwing the bubble down for weapons of light if it's 6s, or just for capturing a zone if it's any other game mode. Controlled Demolition, I think, is the move, because when games get slow and top level teams respect each other and expect each other to hit the primary shot and don't want to fight, your Spike Grenade is often opening the gunfight. And that means if your teammates clean up your Spike Grenaded opponent, they get hit by Controlled Demolition, they get marked volatile, and when they blow up, you and your teammates get health. So that is a monster ability for the way this game plays out at the highest level. I like Antaeus Ward because it lets you safely challenge sniper rifles, because after sprinting for a little bit and you slide in, it can reflect projectiles. Just know that there is a bug where sometimes you will just randomly die. It doesn't matter if they shot a single sidearm bullet at you, you will just randomly die. My theory is that the bullet gets mixed in between the shield and it keeps hitting your player model on repeat till you die, something like that. I can't confirm that though. Majority of Titans are going to have Dune Marchers on. While this may be laughable, you can easily 1v3 the best players in the world if you happen to get a lucky shoulder charge. That is all it takes, and that is still why you see Dune Marcher Titans. It's not just the sprint speed, it's not just the slide speed. The electricity chain wins games. So you shield bash. Because you sprinted for a little bit, Dune Marchers build up an electric chain, and that goes to other enemies. Let's read it here. Suppresses the target, grants an overshield. You hit them with a void ability, they become volatile, you gain health back. So let's recap everything that just happened for hitting a shoulder charge. They take damage, they get suppressed, they chain electricity to their teammates, they become volatile, blow up, you gain health, and you gain an overshield. It's no surprise that that is what a lot of Titans run. Me personally, I really hate sniper rifles, so I'm an Antaeus user. If it's a close quarters map, I drop the Antaeus, I put on Peacekeepers, and I put on Teraba. Teraba is one of the best weapons in the game, period, but probably the best submachine gun. Alternatives to Teraba is going to be the Aikilos submachine gun. That can be obtained from Dares of Eternity. You can get a roll that kind of breaks the rules of submachine guns. I'm going to show you this real quick. This perk right here breaks the rules of submachine guns. I'm going to show you. So we're going to go for max range. Drop off, 21.82. Oh wow, it suddenly went up despite losing range. Yeah, Seraph Rounds gives a secret bonus to fall off damage, and that keeps Aikilos SMG really competitive. If you step into Gambit though, Borrowed Time is the move. It's the baby Teraba. You can even get a similar type of gun to it with Frenzy. Although, all things considered, tap the trigger is the move. If you're running a legendary SMG anyway, that's because you're running some sort of exotic kinetic weapon, like, I don't know, Bastion or Chaperone or Witherhoard or something like that. So, I don't know if you need a kill perk per se, but if you were going the kill perk route, Swashbuckler or Frenzy, definitely the move. While Adrenaline Junkie also makes sense, and you should not discard this if you get it, it's rare that my grenade actually gets the kill. It leads to me getting a kill, it's just the grenade itself doesn't land the killing blow. Surrounded is also worth mentioning. I use this on my daily driver SMG, just I don't use Borrowed Time. So Terava, let's cycle back to this one. If you take damage or deal damage, it builds up to a point where if you hold the reload button, it turns into Call of Duty gun. The body shot damage becomes headshot damage, and armor piercing lets you rip through multiple people in a row. So what'll happen is the Titan will throw up a barricade, you'll hold the reload button, reload your Teraba, you'll break the barricade and kill the person behind it. You'll have enough time to reload and kill the other two teammates before they can even TTK you back. So Teraba can win rounds on its own. Because you're trying to get in close with an SMG, I think it's inevitable that you need a shotgun. If I had to reroll this, I would go for perpetual motion right here. But the reason that I have enhanced 1-2 punch is because this is a response to the meta. If I know I'm going to be playing other bubble titans and warlocks all the time, I want something that gives me a win condition. And sure, I could just switch to that shotgun when it is time to see supers. I think Wastelander is a really good option in the kinetic slot just because it has a more easy on the eyes sight. It's a lot tighter circle, easier to find your opponent. Heritage is a great recommendation here. I go for reconstruction for auto reloading and recombination. And the idea in 6 is that if I am slaying out with Teraba, eventually I'm going to switch to the shotgun. It's going to reload like, I don't know, the 10 bullets I picked up off the floor. And then it's suddenly going to be able to one-tap people, even one-tap supers. It can one-tap opponents in the body and definitely kill supers once it's all said and done and powered up. On a longer range map, don't be afraid to snipe with this. Don't be afraid to just dump your grenade launcher to get map control and then camp Teraba the rest of the game. Even switch to a different SMG that has like Vorpal weapons. You have more options. Or just don't have to waste your reload. You can also do Fighting Lion SMG. This is absolute meta right here. I don't condone it, but I'm putting it on your radar. You go a good SMG like Escape Velocity, Multi-Mach, Submission, etc. Friction Fire is also pretty good here. You can't obtain this one anymore, but it is worth mentioning. Use Lorentz Driver. This is getting a nerf. I still don't know if it's going to be enough. It's one of the best weapons in the game, period. Does high body shot damage. If you land a headshot, which really isn't asking for much, happens accidentally all the time, even through flinch. If you hit the headshot, it has Void Suck. Sucks enemies into a Void Explosion, and sometimes can just kill them outright, but it does enough damage to make the cleanup very easy. The part that I am cringing right now and putting on your radar is that once you're out of Lorentz ammo, switch to Lemon Arc, or switch to Fighting Lion if the situation calls for it. Again, I don't condone it. I don't think it's fun to play against that, but if you're trying to win, that is the move. Another SMG worth mentioning for Peacekeepers, Shayura's Wrath. Unobtainable, by the way, so those other SMGs that I mentioned are probably a more realistic route. So let's hop off Peacekeepers now and talk about the other weapons. I told you I'd get back to Stars and Shadow eventually. I think this is a fantastic role to pair with something like Bastion, Wither Horde, that type of thing. As for a very specific team-centric build, kind of like how I suggested Gemini Jester and Stasis, this is a counter meta. This is a counter meta to the other good Titan option, which is Lorelei Splendor. While I do think the top Titan players can definitely make Lorelei Splendor oppressive at the high level, in a team environment, Bubble helps you and your team, Lorelei helps yourself. Some players are good enough that simply helping themselves does help the team, but I really do think that long-term, super economy, overshield for your special weapon jousting, a grenade to break stalemates, you're better off playing Void Titan. And Malfeasance can kind of soft counter Lorelei Titan, because on the 5th bullet, they explode. So if you and your teammates keep landing shots on a Lorelei Titan, even if they're across the map, they will blow up. This is maybe like C tier when you use it by yourself. When you use it on a team, it's high A tier and can push into S if your team play is impeccable. Here goes no time to explain in the inventory with a placeholder Cartesian coordinate. I'm not going to make fusion rifle recommendations besides maybe one of them that you can farm from this season's Nightfall rotation. Keep going to the wrong weapon side here. And that one is going to be a sliding fusion rifle looking for it here. There's so many good fusion rifles this season. I think even just grabbing Null Composure from the Gunsmith is fantastic. Plug one, here we go. That was just eluding me. It has a perk where if you slide, it charges faster and does more damage, which naturally pairs with what you're trying to do anyway with Antaeus. Dune Marchers has an extended slide, and you can also chain your shoulder charge out of it if you need to move very quickly. No time to explain. It has that alternate win condition of making the easy 2-burst turret buddy. And you're going to be leading with your fusion rifle. When you're out of fusion rifle ammo, menu over to your Vorpal weapon SMG or whatever, and now you have no time to explain with your win condition and then your safety from supers while you're waiting on special ammo. It's not pretty, but it does exist. If you need a hand cannon in the energy slot, Cantata is a world drop. Keep an eye out for similar rolls. This is just a good all-around roll. Actually, I think Chambered Compensator makes more sense here. Boost that recoil direction a little bit. In the power slot, as far as recommendations, get a linear fusion, the Storm Chaser from the dungeon. That thing is an absolute monster. It's a 3-burst. I did not stutter there. It is a 3-burst Storm Chaser, linear fusion rifle. You only need 1 headshot of the burst to kill, I think, or 2 or 3 of the body, which is very doable. As far as ammo economy goes, pulling this off the wall, that's an alarm bell for the opposing team. As far as what you pull, if you can switch weapons, Galahorn is getting a nerf, so you might go back to Truth, you might go back to Wardcliff Coil, or you might even just stick to Galahorn because it's still going to be very good. Heir Apparent, also extremely oppressive, but a lot of good teams know how to counter this. Slow grenades, a smoke, etc. halts their movement so much that you can just kind of dance around and peek fire. What else? Whisper of the Worm if you play Top Tree Dawn. Black Talon in general. Other than that, go a Storm Chaser or a generic machine gun or a generic rocket or a generic grenade launcher. Don't overthink the power slot, but be prepared to swap to it if you're playing a team that's doing the inventory game of just, oh man, my opponents are doing this. I'm going to keep switching weapons in my inventory while it's convenient. It's no lock loadouts. I want to show you the meta sniper right now. This is the Silicon Neuroma. You can farm that this week. I think it is the Proving Ground Strike. What makes this one special is you can get to 100 range through opening shot boosting the range. And with Warlock, you can get a 100 aerial effect in this build. Not to mention it's also an aggressive frame, so it does clean up those hand cannons at 7 resilience and below. Let's take a look at the Warlock. If you're going for the best of the best sniper, I believe that is Eye of Soul from Trials of Osiris. As for the roll recommendation, I don't really know because the older version is just significantly better. Finally, we get to Warlock. I should have mentioned Behemoth Titan when talking about Teraba SMG. Behemoth is really, really, really good on Titan, by the way. So don't sleep on Stasis Titan. You are basically playing the same Top Tree Dawn Blade that veteran players know, except you're switching your super to Well of Radiance because it's a faster super and gives orbs to your other teammates who might also get a super. So it's just a pure economy choice. If your other 2 teammates have fast supers, maybe consider Daybreak or whatever this is, but you don't have to. You could still do well anyway. It's still going to be really good. As far as the mods and whatnot go, it depends on if you're sniping or shotgunning. Your exotic of choice is usually going to be Ophidian Aspect, and you are playing Top Tree Dawnblade, I'm still going to call it that, because of fast rotations and getting around the map quickly. You can be the first to a lane to challenge with a sniper rifle. You can go on Widow's Court with a scout rifle, pop Heat Rises, and float in the air. Or you can do the Touch of Flame healing grenade build, which is very good. It's on the level of Wormhusk and Lorelei on how good it is. But I prefer having a Firebolt grenade because I can either consume it with Heat Rises to heal, throw it at my opponent to burn them, or pop it just to float with Heat Rises, float off the map, that type of thing. Just don't even use it as healing. Use it as getting first pick in the air with the sniper rifle. Though I have a warning here. If you are a sniper rifle player, try to get the range stat bar on your sniper rifle as close to 100 as possible, and try to get the aerial effectiveness stat as close to 100 as possible, if not 100. Sometimes that's going to require using Eye of Another World, but honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's not worth it with how much Ophidian Aspect does for you. The best part of Ophidian Aspect is the melee range. The extra reload, weapon ready handling speed bonus is good, but the melee speed wins games. The melee lunge distance wins games because your player model teleports and nobody can return fire on you. Super oppressive. As for weapon recommendations, it's the same stuff I've recommended to the other characters. Nothing really exclusive here. I do think Cloud Strike is maybe worth a mention because Ophidian Aspects make it faster. As for counter meta, I'm just going to show you the subclasses here. Shadebinder is the best all-around pick in the game, period. Doesn't matter what map, what mode, what team composition. If you know the kit of Shadebinder, you're ready for anything. Now, a specific map pick, I think, is Voidwalker with Blink on Astrocyte Verse because it's a good aerial effectiveness build, and it also gives you an enhanced version of Blink, which can get you in between sniper sight lines and let you close the gap, as well as the Child of the Old Gods can halt your opponents, and you can waste time. Yes, there is a talented Omnioculus team that gives a Blink user a run for its money, but I also think there's good Blink users who maybe give an Omnioculus team a run for their money by blinking out of the effective range of Lord of Wolves and making them blow their invis early and then have your teammates clean them up. I have won so many games just dancing in a giant circle with Blink while other people try to special weapon me down, and it's just not working and they're getting shot in the back. It does happen. So, to recap here, Dawnblade to get the map position and to use Specialist Heat Rises or Healing build. Then we have Stasis as an all-around choice, which even counters bubbles. Doesn't matter, map or mode. We have Blink for movement and breaking ankles. And then if you watch tournaments or watch scrims a lot, Top Tree Stormcaller is still a very viable option, although I don't think it's as good as the others. Let's go back to Titan because I want to end this video by showing off Behemoth. Behemoth Titan has a crazy kit. I don't typically use Diamond Lance, but I started experimenting with the build. Most Titans are going to go Tectonic Harvest and Cryoclasm or Howl of the Storm. If they're going Tectonic and Howl of the Storm, they're trying to farm and overshield by breaking a Glacier Nade. If they're going Cryoclasm, they're trying to close the gap very fast by canceling their slide animation into Titan Skating, which is rapidly hitting the jump button, usually on a scroll wheel, to get to places on the map first, akin to the way that Top Tree Dawnblade does. I've been running an experimental build where I use the Diamond Lance and Cryoclasm to give me in-air accuracy with the Dead Man's Tail using Lion Rampant. So I have extreme maneuverability by using the melee ability called Shiver Strike to reposition. So what I'll do is I will Cryo Slide, cancel the Cryo Slide, Titan Skate out, get to an area first, use my forward momentum to pop into the air at an unexpected angle, take accurate shots with Dead Man's Tail, and then if the enemy spots me and they're dangerous, I use my melee ability to fly the opposite direction where I came, and then chain it again into another Cryoclasm, and I'm already away. I'm 30 meters, cleared that gap already. They might have a shotgun out trying to chase me down, and they just get DMT'd again. It is a very effective build, though because I don't have a lot of playtime on it, I can't tell you if it's heavy meta right now, like I strongly recommended all the other options in this video. So S tier, we have Bubble Titan, Omnioculus, and map dependent, Top Tree Dawnblade, skill dependent, Shadebinder, or matchup dependent, Shadebinder. And then in A tier, literally everything else. In 6s, I think healing comes up a little bit more than the Omni sometimes. So it just depends on the specific map and mode. But as for generic recommendations, the meta at a glance, I'm Cammy. Hope you learned something here. My voice is shot, and I will see you in the next stream, which might be right now. Take care, everyone.